The Scandinavian media wrote every day about the alarming situation at Unit 1 of the Leningrad nuclear power plant. However, the reactor, whose operating life expired in 2004, continued to operate under the deafening silence of Rosatom and the Russian press until 2018. This nuclear power plant is located in Sosnovy Bor, 80 kilometers from St. Petersburg. No explanation is expected from the Russian nuclear agency. The motto in Rosatom is either good or nothing about the peaceful atom. Almost as about a dead man. There are 4 power generating units at Leningrad NPP. Leningrad 1 is the oldest reactor at the plant. It was commissioned 49 years ago. The youngest of them all, Leningrad 4, was launched in 1981. The second and third power units started operating in 1976 and 1980, respectively. One of the reactors at the nuclear power plant in the town of Sosnovy Bor is stopping due to a crack in the graphite, was the message issued by several Scandinavian publications at once. They add, the nuclear reactor operating in Sosnovy Bor is one of the oldest in Russia and is built of the same type as the Chernobyl reactor. These are so-called RBMK reactors, high-capacity, channel-type reactors. The development of this technology was halted after the 1986 Chernobyl accident. And new NPPs were designed only with water-water reactors. Today, Chernobyl-type reactors have survived not only at Leningrad but also at Smolensk and Kursk NPPs. Such reactors have no containment and no solid vessel. During the 1986 accident, this was the main reason for the huge release of radioactive materials. The last Chernobyl-type reactor, built during the Soviet era, was shut down abroad in 2009 at the Ignalina nuclear power plant in Snečkas, today Visaginas, Lithuania. But the problems at the Leningrad nuclear power plant were already talked about a year ago. In the fall and winter of 2010 to 2011, the capacity of the first unit was reduced by 20%. Bulat Nigmatulin, first Deputy General Director of the Institute for the Problems of Natural Monopolies, former Deputy Minister for Atomic Energy of Russia, warned already in February 2012 that the country was on the verge of mass decommissioning of RBMK reactors. Decommissioning of the reactor will entail tangible financial problems. As the professor warned, the shutdown unit will have to be serviced and, consequently, about half of the unit's operating personnel will have to be retained for quite a long time. Isn't this large expenditure the explanation of the nuclear officials' persistence to keep the old reactor running? In next 5 to 7 years at least 2 to 3 billion rubles would be spent on maintenance, and then up to 1 to 2 billion rubles per year. These costs will inevitably be reflected at electricity prices, and LNPP today is only the first swallow. In the near future, other nuclear power plants that have RBMK reactors, Kursk and Smolensk NPPs, will have to be shut down. But no one is going to slow down the operation of the emergency power unit. And now, a sensation. The service life of the first power unit at Leningrad nuclear power plant ended as early as January 7, 2004. And it was then, nuclear workers filed an action to challenge an unnormative decision of the president to prolong operation of the first unit of the Leningrad nuclear power plant, which had reached the end of its resource. According to Article 7 of the Law of the Russian Federation of November 21, 1995 superscript 1170 FZ on the use of atomic energy, the President of the Russian Federation decides on safety issues in the use of atomic energy. Therefore, no other person or organization, other than the President, is given such a right by law. The law does not provide for extending the resource life of nuclear facilities at all. Therefore, the decision of the head of state is not normative. Extension of service life of the first Chernobyl-type unit of the LNPP certainly refers to procedures affecting nuclear safety not only of Russians, but also of all Baltic states and Europe as a whole. Illegal prolongation of the operation time of the first unit of Leningrad NPP violates the following provisions of the Constitution of Russia. The explosion at Unit 4 in Chernobyl demonstrated that reactor operation without containment and a solid reactor pressure vessel, which is a prerequisite for operation of all power reactors by the International Atomic Energy Agency, is extremely dangerous for the population of the country and the neighboring countries. The situation is aggravated by the fact that the resource of the reactor itself and the main equipment is already exhausted. When such units are in operation, fundamental rights and freedoms of citizens are undoubtedly violated. And the fact that LNPP is located on the shore of Gulf of Finland jeopardizes basic life values of people in all countries of the Baltic region and Europe as a whole. It is noteworthy that on January 12, 2000, for the Supreme Court of the RF registered a suit of Ostretsev, Deputy Director for Science of the All-Russian Research Institute for Nuclear Power Engineering. Professor Ostretsev challenged Vladimir Putin's decision to extend the deadline for the first unit of the Leningrad nuclear power plant. What do you think the court decision was? The first power unit continued its operation. The probability of an accident at the RBMK 1000 reactor of the Leningrad nuclear power plant is increasing, the plaintiff is sure, because the Chernobyl unit had only been in operation for 3 years before the explosion, and the equipment at the first unit of LNPP had long and completely exhausted its service life. Another sensation. How is it possible to extend the service life of the old power unit if the details, causes and real consequences of the terrible disaster that occurred at the Leningrad nuclear power plant in 1979 have still not been published? Valery Volkov, nuclear safety expert and director of the Academy of Geopolitical Problems, poses a question. This accident is still classified and even the nuclear workers know very little about it. And the consequences were quite significant, because the release was about 2 million curies. We can compare it to the Chernobyl accident. The release at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was 50 million curies, but here 2 million curies is a very serious accident. Of course, no one reported it then. But why hasn't this event been made public until now? Why are environmental problems associated with this release and the impact of this contamination on the health of people in the Leningrad region not being discussed? The Environmental and Radiation Monitoring Laboratory in Sosnovy Bor was shut down a long time ago. The Leningrad 1 power unit will not be shut down? The plant management stated that the first reactor is still in operation. As clarified by the press service of Leningrad NPP, the first power unit can still function under Rostekhnadzor license. However, logic has prevailed, and on December 21 the world's first power unit with RBMK 1000 reactor, which had been in operation at the power plant for over 40 years, was shut down forever at the Leningrad plant. The power unit with the RBMK 1000 reactor was started up on December 21, 1973, and operated flawlessly and safely for 45 years. December 21 at 23:30 it was finally shut down, routinely shut down and disconnected from the unified power grid of Russia. In its place, the Generation 3+ reactor of increased capacity, VVR 1200, with a design life of 60 years, was switched onto the grid. The RBMK 1000 reactor, uranium graphite nuclear reactors of the channel type with thermal neutrons, was first installed in the USSR at the Leningrad NPP. The decision to build the NPP was made in September 1966. Construction of the first unit was completed in 1973. Initially, the RBMK 1000 service life was 30 years, but later it was extended to 45 years. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends. Give it a thumbs up. Tell us interesting facts you know about the topic of this video. See you in new videos.